Sergeant Jake Morrison had seen enough war to last several lifetimes. The battle for Proxima Station had ended 3 days ago, leaving behind the usual aftermath of debris, damaged ships, and scattered refugees. As part of the cleanup crew, Jake's job was simple: sweep the abandoned sectors, catalog salvageable equipment, and report any survivors to command. He wasn't expecting to find a baby. The infant lay wrapped in shimmering silver cloth inside what remained of a luxury escape pod, its tiny form barely visible among the twisted metal and sparking circuits. Most soldiers would have immediately called for medical teams and refugee services. But Jake had learned not to trust the system. Too many good people had been lost in bureaucratic shuffles and interspecies politics. The baby was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Its skin held an otherworldly luminescence, shifting between pale blue and silver like moonlight on water. Delicate, almost crystalline features suggested a species from the Inner Rim, one of the more advanced civilizations. Most striking were its eyes' deep violet orbs that seemed far too knowing for such a young creature. When Jake reached down, the baby's tiny hand wrapped around his finger with surprising strength. Something in that grip, that trusting gaze, made a decision for him. He looked around the empty pod bay, checked his scanner for other life signs, and made a choice that would change both their lives forever. "Looks like it's just you and me, kid," Jake murmured, carefully lifting the infant from the wreckage. The adoption process was surprisingly straightforward. With no identifiable species records and no surviving family members coming forward, the baby, whom Jake named Alex, became another war orphan in need of placement. Jake's military record was spotless, his psychological evaluation stable, and his request was processed without question. Life aboard the military transport ship Endeavour proved unexpectedly peaceful. Alex was a remarkably easy child, quiet, observant, and somehow always seeming to understand more than an infant should. The other soldiers took to calling him Little Star because of the way his skin would glow softly when he was content. As months passed, Jake began noticing unusual things about his adopted son. Alex never got sick, despite the ship's recycled air and poor nutrition. He learned to walk months earlier than human children typically did. Most remarkably, Alex seemed to have an intuitive understanding of technology. He could operate basic control panels before he could properly speak, and the ship's AI systems responded to him in ways that puzzled the engineering staff. "Kid's got some kind of natural affinity for quantum interfaces," Chief Engineer Rodriguez observed one day, watching 2-year-old Alex successfully activate a backup power relay. "Never seen anything like it." Jake chose to see these abilities as gifts rather than concerns. Alex was his son, strange abilities or not. The boy was gentle, curious, and filled with an infectious joy that brightened even the darkest corners of military life. Everything changed when the Endeavour received an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council. A delegation from the Ethereal Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in known space, was requesting permission to board. They claimed to be searching for someone of immense importance who had been lost during the battle at Proxima Station. Jake felt his blood turn cold as he watched the delegation's lead diplomat, a tall, luminescent being with the same crystalline features as Alex, addressed the ship's captain over the viewscreen. "We seek Prince Zephyr of the Ethereal Dominion," the diplomat announced, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "Heir to the celestial throne and future ruler of 17 star systems. He was evacuated from Proxima Station 3 years ago, but never reached his destination." The captain assured the delegation that no such person was aboard their vessel, but Jake's mind was racing. The timing matched exactly. The location was correct. And those distinctive features. That evening, Jake sat in his quarters, watching Alex play with a holographic puzzle, the child's natural luminescence casting dancing shadows on the walls. The boy looked up at his adoptive father with those knowing violet eyes, and Jake saw recognition there, as if Alex understood exactly what was happening. "You knew, didn't you?" Jake whispered. "Somehow, you always knew." Alex toddled over and placed his small hand on Jake's chest, right over his heart. When he spoke, his voice carried an unusual clarity for a 3-year-old. "You are my father, Jake Morrison. The stars may have given me birth, but you gave me love." The next morning, Jake made the hardest decision of his life. He contacted the ethereal delegation directly, requesting a private meeting. When the diplomat materialized in the ship's conference room via hologram, Jake stood beside Alex, his hand protectively on the boy's shoulder. The diplomat's expression shifted from curiosity to amazement to something approaching reverence as he looked at the child. "Prince Zephyr," he breathed, dropping to one knee. "The Empire has searched for you across 1,000 worlds." "My name is Alex," the boy replied with quiet dignity. "And this is my father." What followed was a negotiation unlike any in galactic history. The ethereal Dominion desperately wanted their prince returned, but Alex refused to leave without Jake. The Empire's laws had no provision for human adoptive parents, especially not military personnel from a species they considered barely above primitive. But Prince Zephyr was nothing if not determined. In a display of authority that shocked everyone present, the 3-year-old demanded that Jake be granted full diplomatic immunity, citizenship in the ethereal Dominion, and the title of Royal Guardian. "My father stays with me," Alex declared, his young voice carrying the unmistakable weight of absolute authority. "Or I renounce my claim to the throne." Faced with losing their heir entirely, the Dominion capitulated. 6 months later, Jake found himself living in a crystal palace on the capital world of Etheria, wearing formal diplomatic robes and learning to navigate imperial politics. Alex had insisted on keeping his human name in official documents, becoming Prince Alex Zephyr Morrison, a symbolic bridge between two worlds. The boy who had once been a war orphan was now heir to one of the galaxy's greatest empires, but he still insisted on bedtime stories about Earth, still preferred Jake's simple cooking to royal delicacies, and still glowed brightest when his adoptive father was near. During the coronation ceremony that would officially recognize Alex as crown prince, Jake stood proudly beside the throne as his son addressed the assembled nobles and dignitaries. "A wise human once told me that family isn't about blood or species or birthright," Alex announced, his voice carrying across the vast hall. "Family is about choosing to love someone and never giving up on them. Today, I choose to lead this empire with the same wisdom my father taught me, that the greatest strength comes not from power, but from compassion." As the crowd erupted in applause, Jake realized that sometimes the most ordinary acts of kindness could reshape the very fabric of the universe. He had saved one lost child from the wreckage of war, never knowing that he was also saving an empire, and that the child would, in turn, save him from a life of empty duty and endless battles. In the end, it didn't matter that Alex was a prince. What mattered was that he was Jake's son, and Jake was his father, and some bonds transcend even the vast distances between stars.